Okay, so it is 6:02 and I am going to start the meeting tonight by letting you know, first of all, that the meeting is being recorded mostly for secretarial purposes, but certain parts or presentations, we edit separately and we put them on our YouTube channel so that they can be accessed later on. Would someone like to read the mission statement? Michael Edlin, would you like to read it? No? Beth?
I don't have it in front of me, but hang
Oh
on.
my God. What about Karen?
Sorry.
I have it. Yes, I have it.
Okay.
The purpose of the Pacific Palisades Community Council shall be to 1, be a forum for the consideration of community issues. 2, be an advocate for Pacific Palisades to government and private agencies upon issues where there is broad community agreement, as reflected by 2/3 of the board members voting on any one of those issues at a PPC meeting. And 3, assist other organizations in the Palisades which want to help in accomplishing their objectives or projects, which the PPCC determines to support.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks so much. Also, just so you all know, we have a couple different presentations tonight. We have an important motion tonight. So I'm going to move the agenda around a little bit like I tend to do every week. So don't be shocked. All right, I'm going to take roll. So we make sure we have a quorum tonight. I'm here. I see Quentin's here. I see Beth is here. I don't know if Jenny's here, if Jenny's back yet.
I'm here. Here I am.
Okay, good. Great. I hope you had a great trip. Miriam, are you here? Okay, Chris Spitz is here. Joanna Rodriguez? And if not Joanna, Cindy Young?
Joanna Spack is here.
Joanna's back. Okay, thank you very much. Steve Crone? Or Carol White? Or
I'm here.
Good. Okay, thank you so much. Julia Nilsson, I saw you. Karen Ridgely?
Yes.
Definitely here. I saw Sharon Kilbride. Andrew Wolfberg. Jan Shorts.
I was going to say Kimberly Bloom's here too.
Right. Oh, you know what? I skipped her because I've already got her because I saw her. Sorry about that. James Alexakis.
Here.
Janet Anderson. I thought I saw Janet.
I saw her earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, she's there. I see Janet Anderson.
Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Richard Blumenberg. Or Kevin Niles, either one. Eric Dugdale. And I know Barbara said she probably couldn't be here tonight. I don't think she's here. Is Donna here? Okay, they're not here. John Evans. Kay Stensipere. Courtney Macker. Or Jessica. John Patton. Or Bruce Schwartz. Hagop Chakarian.
Here.
Good, thank you very much. Paul Topple.
She's traveling in Germany. She'll be back May 16th.
Okay, last week she attended the meeting from Germany, so I thought maybe she might be
Right,
here.
okay.
What about Dave Card?
I'm here.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we're good. We have quorum. And now we're going to move on to the approval of the minutes. Is there anyone in this meeting on the board that does not approve the minutes that were sent out in the agenda? Good. Okay. Upcoming meetings. On May 22nd, both Rick Caruso and Nick Geller are going to be here from Steadfast So that'll be a great meeting. They have a lot of good info. And board nominations of officer candidates will be accepted that night until 15 minutes before the scheduled close of the meeting. So if anybody has a last minute proposal, they have till 15 minutes before the end of the meeting. June 12th, if it's necessary, we will have a candidates forum. If not, we won't. And we will have the election of the PPCC officers for the 25-26 term on that night.
Sue, can I
Possibly-
just add, Courtney Macker came to the meeting.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. And it's possible we have the LADWP that night. I've been in communication with them. I just can't get a definite nod from them yet, but we're working on that. Jenny, do you have a treasurer's report?
I do. Today, we have $619,481.21. Last meeting, we talked about the large deposit, and really since then, there's been no activity. Except we have had a couple, just regular small donations. So that's it.
Okay, so the second check from Riviera hasn't arrived.
I think you said after May 9th, so it's gonna go by
Yeah,
the. post
yeah, it was
office
supposed to be
tomorrow.
after May 9th, so, okay. Okay, now we are going to move on the agenda to what was listed as 10, old business. And as part of old business, we have a motion tonight for board approval of a NORC survey of community opinion. This is a motion being made by both the rebuild committee and the executive committee. So we don't need to have it seconded because there's several board members who've already approved it, or already nominated it. We have David Schwartz and Quentin here to present it to you. And after that, we will have a vote. And of course, the motion has been sent out in the agenda, so you all have the information. And this is to approve a community survey to be conducted by NORC that we would like to support financially. I'm going to read you just an introduction, and then I'm going to turn it over to Quentin and to David. So PPCC's mission is to advocate on behalf of all Palisadians based on what matters most to Palisadians as to issues affecting all of our communities, residents and renters, business owners and civic organizations, young families and retirees. The fire has placed unprecedented challenges before us. If PPCC is to be an effective advocate for all of its residents in the face of this crisis, it must first understand our priorities and needs. We were very, very blessed to receive a very sizable donation from the Riviera Foundation, along with a $50,000 grant already received from the California Community Fund. PPCC is currently on hand over $550,000 and expect a second donation of $126,000 from the Riviera Foundation. This will bring the total funds on hand to $685,000. And I will say, of all the years I've been on this council, that is by far the most that has ever been in our bank account. The executive committee has decided unanimously to use a portion, about 25% of it, to underwrite a comprehensive opinion research project that is designed to gauge what our residents' priorities and needs are in driving the rebuilding of our community. As Quentin and David will explain, this survey will be more than a tool to guide PPCC in the positions it takes in response to government actions affecting the Palisades rebuild. It can become a fulcrum for shaping the policy choices our elected officials will be asked to make, but with the actual needs of our residents taken into account. I, along with the rest of the executive committee, believe that this survey is not only necessary, but essential to our mission and to the future success of the rebuild. To date, not one organization, not in the Palisades, not in Altadena, has come close to such a comprehensive, methodologically sophisticated undertaking. I urge our board members to adopt the proposal so that we may move quickly to get on with the important work of what our rebuild committee and NORC is proposing. And with that, I will turn this over to Quentin.
Thank you, Sue. The first question that probably comes to mind is why a survey? And what we're trying to do, or what we want to do with this survey, is to measure the Palisadian residents' rebuilding priorities, especially with understanding who is rebuilding and coming back to the Palisades. Second, to identify the key concerns of those whose homes are still standing. And then third, to ascertain what actions Palisadians want the government to take to assist in the rebuilding and what trade-offs residents are willing to support in order to do that. We want to translate opinion into concrete actions taken by community organizations, by the private sector, and by government institutions in developing policy and federal appropriations. One thing we've learned is that those who have come through similar disasters tend to express a common frustration, and that is that government agencies such as FEMA fail to give enough attention to the needs or concerns of those most directly affected, especially when it comes to prioritizing rebuilding goals or trade-offs. A survey such as this will be methodologically unassailable, and it'll give Palisadians a collective voice that can drive the policy discussion and the earmarking of federal disaster relief appropriations. For example, Governor Newsom has asked Congress to provide $10 billion in funding through HUD's Community Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program. We don't want state to leave it to state or local officials to decide how to spend these funds. To the extent possible, earmarking gives voice to our residents' priorities and checks the misallocation of disaster recovery funds. Another point I want to make is that this survey will be unlike the other fire-related surveys some of you are familiar with. Those other surveys have essentially been, for lack of a better expression, sort of one-off impressionistic snapshots, and most of those were taken within the first 30 days after the fires. They don't have the scientific rigor and credibility that NORC brings to the process. They're not as comprehensive nor focused or rigorous as what is demanded in order to obtain actionable results. We're going to be diving into issues that the other surveys haven't covered. Another drawback with the other surveys is that they were not all Palisades specific. In other words, some were open to non-Palisades participants. Without actually targeting the effective residents, the utility of measuring priorities and needs is of dubious value and can be easily discounted by policymakers. One of NORC's key areas of expertise is in their ability to use databases and other means to target specific individuals, and they will be targeting specifically only Palisadians. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Dave Schwartz.
Thank you, Quentin, for that and overview. I want to talk about first why NORC and how we arrived at NORC as the choice to drive this process. NORC is the National Opinion Research Center at the University of Chicago. It is a pioneer in measuring and translating opinion research for projects, particularly projects of this kind of complexity. I will tell you that when I first became involved as a chairman of the Rebuild Committee, it was my first assignment / goal to undertake the feasibility of conducting a study and to really determine the need and efficacy of one. So I did two things. First, I tried to understand as best as we could the work that had been done to date. And to help me guide that process, I enlisted the help of Carolyn Bowman. She was a former editor of Public Opinion magazine and is with the American Enterprise Institute. I've known Carolyn for over 40 years, and she is probably one of the real leading experts on opinion research out of a very important think tank. We both collectively and quickly concluded that the survey information that was available was, as Quentin suggested, that impressionistic, but had no real analytical heft to it. And we, as an organization, need not only to have the best science behind the polling data, but also we need to have the most unimpeachable methodology, because the conclusions, whatever they may be, to the extent as we hope they will be used to drive the policy discussion, have to be defensible. And so with that in mind, we interviewed 3 candidates to do this work. The first was the Harris poll. Many of you may have heard of Lou Harris. That is an organization that has been around since the days of President Kennedy. It was Lou Harris who was Kennedy's pollster, and they have maintained more of a democratic orientation when it comes to the work they have done. But no one will question their abilities, particularly in the work that they do for collecting data. The second organization that we talked to was called Political Opinion Strategies. Bill McInturf is probably the leading pollster, leaning more to the Republican side. And then the third candidate, and without question the obvious candidate, was NORC. It is one of a few, and I mean just a handful of organizations known for conducting high quality, rigorous research and analysis in the public interest. And I want to pause just to make something clear. When I say that the work that they do is in the public interest, NORC is a nonprofit, nonpartisan 501c3 research organization. Its bailiwick has been since 1941, when it was first created to assay the public opinions on getting on the possibility of war, that they have done an enormous amount of work in partnership with federal and state governments, as well as private foundations. Maybe for those of you who had the opportunity to look over some of the materials, 2 studies that they performed in particular, one for the Rockefeller Foundation, another one for the Red Cross, I guess the third one for the state of California, all 3 of which deal with fire resiliency, how communities deal in the aftermath of natural disasters. That was the Superstorm Sandy longitudinal study that they performed in 2012. So this is an organization that comes to us with a deep understanding of how to manage through the really complex issues associated with the kind of crisis and crisis management and recovery and rebuilding that this community is now going on. The second reason why they were an outstanding choice, in addition to their unique experience in analyzing disaster preparedness and community resiliency, is that they probably more than any organization we were able to speak to really had an in-depth understanding of the complexity associated with this very dynamic situation. What do I mean by that? Whatever information that may have been gleaned from some of those impressionistic surveys in the first 30 days would be so much ripples in the water. I mean, as we all know, what's happening in our community in terms of ownership of properties, in terms of our own thinking about what we want to do, is changing. And so one of the things that we wanted to make sure we built into this budget was a longitudinal aspect to it. We wanted to see what opinion and priorities were of the community, say in 3 to 5 months, when we complete the first wave of the survey, and then to do the same survey, adjusting it for information we've already learned, say in 4 to 6 months' time. That again is going to refresh the data, but it's also going to help us get a better, more longitudinal perspective on what the trend is with this community. Now, one thing that NORC is not, it is not a marketing firm, and this is not a marketing study. Identifying and evaluating residents' preferences for rebuilding options is much more complicated than, say, for example, understanding audience preferences for a product or a service, or even how one might brand a product or deliver a message in terms of its resonating with different groups. This is highly complex and multivariate. We'll be looking at different kinds of age and demographic cohorts, in different kinds of neighborhoods where the characteristics of the owner of the property is quite different. And so therefore, understanding what might be the a statistically valid sampling of former residents or property holders in the alphabet streets may look very different than those who, say, live in the lower Huntingtons, whose properties remain standing. So this is going to require very careful customized design. And the first, through literature review, to understand what exactly we know about how communities react to and are acted upon by the government in these kinds of situations. So the first step would be for the NORC folks to review the literature. And second, in some ways, the most important is focus group interactions as a formative research tool. By this, I mean the typically you might poll or interview and get impressions from people in a focus group for purposes of just testing their level of interest in a particular product or a particular issue. NORC's approach to focus group is to actually use the process as a way to help define the research questions and then to define the survey questions themselves. None of this can happen by a simple or generic discussion of say, a difference between Tide detergent versus fill in the blank. The third thing, and the heaviest lift in many ways, will be the use of a full population frame. The expectation is that if possible, they're going to try to capture as many of the 10,000 to 11,000 addresses based on a very sophisticated outreach strategy, some of which is discussed in the proposal, which is on the website, some of which is in the PowerPoint. And I won't go over some of the ways in which they're able to tease out information, but what's the key here is to try to create a linkage between those responding to the survey and knowing where they lived, what else we might learn from open source data. In this regard, it's very different from any other survey we see. And that is because we're actually going to have, subject to all the confidentiality rules, a great deal of information about who is answering what questions. The whole survey is probably going to take from soup to nuts 16 to 22 weeks. It's going to end with a comprehensive analysis of the data survey. But before that happens, and this is one of the reasons why I'm gratified to see so many people on the call tonight, an outreach strategy to encourage people to understand the importance of the survey and to get them to respond to the survey. It's going to be partly word of mouth, partly a branding strategy, things that we as concerned citizens and members of the council are going to be actively involved in helping design. As I already mentioned, it is longitudinal. The expectation is that there'll be a second wave that will happen 3 to 6 months after the completion of the first survey. I want to talk about costs. This is a not to exceed budget of $172,500. That takes us from all the research and scoping memo through the focus group process, the harvesting of information necessary to identify survey targets, and ending in the comprehensive analysis of that survey data. NORC, as I mentioned, is a federal contractor. They're federally negotiated rates, and it must, across the board, follow strict accounting protocols. So this is just a matter of maintaining their status as a federal or state contractor. It also should give any of us who are concerned about how they're going to deploy that finite amount of money confidence that they're going to be careful stewards of our money. the pricing approach in this proposal is the same that they've used in all other types of clients, from the capital area food bank to government agencies to universities to foundations and corporations. Again, NORC is not making a profit on this. It is agreed, moreover, to a $5,000 deduction off of that not to exceed budget as a gesture and signal to PPCC of its commitments to the goals of this project and the importance it assigns to it. I think the gesture is that it's a gesture, but it's also a gesture from an entity that has over 1,000 employees, last year at 300 million in revenues. It's gratifying to me that they're willing to take this as seriously as they are. One last point. The project lead, Joy Money, is a resident of Santa Monica. She came to NORC after 20 years at Rand Corporation. So she not only has the analytical chops to do the work, but she also understands a little bit about our community, about the geography, that kind of on-the-ground understanding of what the Palisades is. It's going to be extraordinarily useful, I think, for us, and I think it's going to get a better result. That's our presentation, as Quentin said, and as Sue has already mentioned. I think that the proposal from NORC is, in my judgment and that of the Rebuild Committee, an excellent approach to a really, really important tool that could help drive the voice of this community. Thank you.
David and Quentin, thank you so much. That was a great presentation. I'm wondering if some of you on the call might have a question or something in particular that you heard tonight that you'd like to discuss. If so, raise your hand. I see Leanne.
First and foremost, you had me with U Chicago. University of Chicago, their IOP is amazing. They're very nonpartisan, and anything out of there is exceptional. How do we get to be on the focus group, and how will those be chosen?
I think the methodology is going to be driven by NORC. They're going to look to PPCC for broad input. For starters, one of the kinds of issues that they need to start to triangulate around the purposes of designing the survey questions. We haven't, frankly, Leanne, we haven't talked about the selection process for the focus groups. I do know that it's less important that there is geographical or demographic representation than there are people who are, active participants in this process. The statistically relevant representation of what the community thoughts are does not come from necessarily just the selection of the 16 or 20 people who will be participants, or 24, however the number is, in each of the 4 focus groups. So I think it's up to them to decide how they want to do this. One thing you should know about NORC, it adheres to it has its own internal process of vetting. There's a word for it. I think they call it the human capital inquiry. They're very, very careful about making sure that those who participate in surveys, whether as focus group members or as those who submit answers to questions, that their confidentiality is respected. And so I was very impressed to learn just the rigor with which they approach this internal process of assuring that they are making sure that there's no deviation from the privacy processes to protect people, because it also goes to the integrity of the survey. So we certainly will let them know, and maybe they will recommend to us that a call for volunteers would make sense.
Thank you.
That helps.
Sue, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute because my dog was making noise. Daphne, it's on you.
I had a couple of things that I thought I heard. I'm sorry, if I misunderstood, but are you saying that it's going to be limited to essentially 4 groups of up to 24 people each, like 100 people?
No,
This-
no.
yeah, okay, and then, okay, and then the
Mm.
other thing is, I thought there was something about by the information would be able to be tallied so that you would know who submitted the information, or they would know who submitted the information. Is that for follow-up? Because I'm concerned that people may not want to respond if they think that they can then be, I guess,
No, I
outed.
any participation in the survey is purely voluntary. I think part of their protocols is to establish what is it that they're going to ask or invite people to say in terms of self-identification. They will already have a pretty good idea because the survey is primarily, not entirely, going to be conducted using email, text, cell phone messages. Now, they're all vast depositories of information that will help us identify who those people are, whether it's voter registration rolls or property tax rolls or post office information. It's not unusual, and here I'm getting a little way beyond my area of competency. But I will tell you that one of the ways they do this is to have a kind of a double blind investigation, knowing the people to whom they're sending an inquiry. If a response comes back from that same address, they won't necessarily need to use the name at all, but they will nonetheless have maybe a number assigned to that person. So it anonymizes the information that comes back, but they will know from the fact that it is a person responding to a particular email or cell phone number, who that person is, where they live. So they're so experienced in, as I said, in anonymizing the data while still understanding the demographic footprint of the person who's answering, that I have confidence they will be able to both harvest lots of interesting information while protecting people's confidentiality. How they actually lay out the ways in which they're going to do that is something they're going to have to explain to me, and then obviously to anybody who's going to be a participant or who agrees to respond.
Thank you, David. All right, Kimberly?
Yeah, hi, guys. I just want to say I had the pleasure of attending the presentation by these folks, and the amazing attention to detail. They know exactly what they are doing. I left with no questions and a ton of confidence that this would be a very good thing for us. As Quentin had said, this collective voice will help us drive policy and will help the government, state, local, federal, whatever, know the areas that we want the money spent. And I think that is a key thing for me, is to make sure that all this money, fire aid, whatever it is, gets used the way the community wants to use it. So to have a collective voice done by a respected survey firm that FEMA is aware of and everything else, to me, is worth every penny of the money. And I just want to say I'm very happy that this is happening, and I'm hoping that we can all pass it and approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Chris?
Thank you. Yes, I agree 100% with what Kimberly just said. And I want to just comment, David and Quentin put time in investigating, researching the appropriate entity that we should be considering, having meetings and with the representatives of NORC and getting us to this point. I want to thank them for their effort. Bringing this level of professionalism to PPCC is tremendous. And I do hope that the rest of the board supports this. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan?
Hi guys, I'm Ryan. I'm the owner of Spruzzo Restaurant at corner of Palisades and Palisades Drive and Sunset. Completely unrelated to Mr. Schwartz' proposal there, but We just reopened our restaurant last Thursday.
You know what, Ryan,
Yes,
can I stop you here?
Sure.
There is a place for public comment later in the meeting.
sure.
This
Sorry about that.
discussion is very much about the survey motion.
Got
So
it.
sorry, but that's for another time.
No worries.
And
Sorry about that.
congratulations on reopening. We'll be there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Jessica.
Hi there. Congrats on opening Spruso, by the way. So I just wanted to say that I also have the pleasure of being part of the rebuild committee for PPCC, and that I am so thoroughly impressed and thrilled that we have really incredibly qualified individuals as part of the group, and David leading that group, who has brought brought us to exactly where we need to be right now in the Pacific Palisades, which is we are desperate for federal, state funding, and we have competing interests throughout the community right now. When you have a burnt down community, there's a lot of people who see a lot of dollars here. We're talking billions of dollars. And so this particular agency that David and others have done so much research on is going to give us exactly what we need when we can justify these are our wants, these are the needs for the community. This is what we are aware of what the city can do, and we can fill the gaps that way. And so I know it's a lot of money. I know a lot of us have seen other surveys out there. It's another survey and it's a lot of money, but nothing is going to give us the legitimacy that NORC is going to give us. And we are going to need that when further down the line, people call us up on decisions that get made. We will always have this incredibly powerful tool to fall back on. And the experts in the field are only going to look at that. They're not going to care what we're going on about. They're going to care that we have that in our back pocket. So I fully support it as the head of PPRA, as a member of this board and the committee. And I really hope we can just get this done tonight. And I know it takes time, and I know it's another survey, but this one is necessary, and we will be very grateful that we get it done.
Thank you,
I
Jessica.
might, Madam Chairman, just quickly respond
Yeah.
to the last two comments,
Yeah.
maybe the last three. Congratulations on your restaurant. And on the issue of the impact of the survey, for me, the aha moment came about a month and a half ago when I spoke with a fellow by the name of Trey Raffel. He's the former chief of staff of policy planning at HUD, but he also spent 6 years working for Senator Harry Reid. So he was intimately involved in the Superstorm Sandy and other disaster relief congressional allocations, as well as at HUD in administering or having an oversight policy window into the distribution of their community block grant funding for disaster recovery. And what he said to me when I said, what is, in your judgment, the most important thing we as a community group can do to help drive the appropriations process to make sure that the money goes to where it's needed? He said, without question, those communities that get their act together and have a opinion research that is beyond any dispute, a fair measure of what are the wishes of the community. It is very easy for those who are on the appropriations committee to look at what it is that the community wants, or to see the recommendations that come out of that and say, this community is wants to see the following 4 or 5 things happen. And I don't know, and nor will we prejudge what those may be. But they may include things like, we want another means of ingress and egress out of the highlands, because we got darn lucky that people didn't perish. And so if people are willing to stand up and say with overwhelming unanimity that these are some of the things that they insist on with the monies that were spent, and that is where we want the congressmen who are talking to make sure that they identify and earmark that portion of the 10 billion, whatever we may be able to obtain, could be less probably, but we make sure that it goes to where we think it is needed. It's going to, and this issue will repeat itself again and again, whether it has to do with density, whether it has to do with infrastructure upgrading, whether it has to do with the trade-offs between the construction, the swiftness with which construction takes place versus getting the rebuild of the infrastructure right, whether it's dealing with fire resiliency issues, including the antiquated fire hydrant system. These are things that we want our voices to be heard. Again, I do not know what the answers will be. It's going to take a heck of a lot of sophistication to prepare a survey that gets to those conclusions, because at the end of the day, those who respond to the survey have a limited attention span. Typically, the questions that are asked are no more than 50 in number. So a lot of forethought has to go into this. And this is one of the reasons why those focus group exercises is going to be important. I mentioned there will be the plan is there will be 4 60-minute focus groups with 6 to 8 residents from different areas of the community. That may change or be altered depending on what they think, but that's the real starting point. Sorry for that digression, but
Thanks, David. Okay, we're going to take one more comment because we have to move forward with a vote and we have some other presentations tonight. So Lori, you're going to be the concluding comment.
Okay, thanks, Sue. Yeah, I'll be really quick. Thank you so much, David and Quentin. It was such a great summary, and I think really really shared what the survey is gonna do. And the last thing that I want to say is that I'm excited for this survey to make the PPCC the voice of the Palisades, what we want. Again, there are many surveys out there like we talked about, but each of them is separate. And this survey will bring all of those together and will become the voice of the Palisades again.
Okay. Well, we still are. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Lori. Okay. So the motion is on the agenda. You've all heard what it is. It's for the PPCC to support this survey being done by NORC. And I would like to take a vote. And I think the easiest way to take a vote, for starters, to save time, is to ask if there's anyone who on the board, this is only for the board members to vote. Is there anyone on the board who opposes moving forward? Okay, is there anyone on the board who wants to abstain? Okay, I think we have passed unanimously. So thank you so much. David, you've done an incredible amount of work. And Quentin, you have too. And we appreciate all of it so much. And I think it's turned out to be a real positive, and it came to a good conclusion. So thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay, now we are going to go on to new business. Okay, we'll go back later, but we have 2 wonderful Pali High students with us tonight. We have Caitlin Chang, who is a Pali High ambassador, who actually was so nice. She approached us to say, how about listening to us? We'd like to give you a student's perspective to what's been going on since the fire. And of course, we have our youth advisor, Ellen Nazar, who's also here tonight. So I'm going to start with Caitlin, and I'm going to turn it over to you 2 ladies.
Hi, it's so nice to see everyone. As Sue introduced me, I'm Caitlin, and I'm part of student government at Pali. So I just wanted to start off with my experience with the fire. Like many of you, the fire definitely was something that we all didn't expect, and it was filled with a lot of uncertainty. From wondering how my family and friends were doing and what would happen with Pali High. And personally, I lost my home in the fire, so everything kind of felt ambiguous to me, from being a high school student and also losing all my school materials, and everything just felt very complicated. However, I do think as a community, we handled this like amazingly. Like I felt I always had support, like my teachers were always there to help me. And if I ever need anything, I feel like I could have always reach out to the community and go to donation centers, etc. And I just felt like our community was so strong during this time, and it was really amazing to see. Um, I want to speak also on like the transition to Zoom. So the transition from in-person to school to Zoom was definitely hard to adapt to. Classes were much shorter. I think our bell schedule went from being from 8 to 3 to 9 to 12. And we had no school for 2 weeks, which made things even more complicated as I felt like I'm an AP student. And in most of my classes, we were really behind. So it was hard to catch up. And my teachers were just assigning like a lot of assignments. So with having all this and a lot more homework and dealing with the fire, it just felt like a lot at the time. But I think it was kind of great that I also got to experience this because I felt like it made everyone stronger and it really showed how as a community we all can come together. And I also felt like during being on like on Zoom, I also think it was difficult being at home all the time. Like I felt like it was COVID again, and I felt like I was always confined to my room and didn't have that barrier between school and my studies. And it just felt like I was always like studying in my room. And I know for me as well as my peers, it definitely took a toll on our mental health and academic performances. For example, with the fire happening at the time of AV exams, which was this week, by the way, being on Zoom was just very difficult as I wasn't able to do things in class as I would in person. For example, labs in AP Bio and all the different trade activities we were supposed to do in World. But I think my teachers really handled this really well. Like, I know for bio, she held a ton of Zooms over the weekend and after school to help us out with all the schoolwork and anything, like any of her concerns, anything we're confused on. And for World, like my teacher always reached out and made sure I was okay and that I had like a textbook. Like he went to my apartment and delivered me a textbook, which I thought was really amazing. And I also think it was really amazing how we were able to switch from online to an in-person campus and find a new campus so quickly. And I think everyone is definitely like much happier at this campus. And I know Ella wants to speak on her experience at Sears.
Yeah, definitely. Caitlin, I think you did a great job explaining, the aspects of Zoom and what that was like going online after the fire. So I just wanted to share a little bit of what it was like after just a few weeks at the new Sears Pali South campus. So first of all, with the initial transition to Sears was definitely very difficult because I think I speak for a lot of us when I say that we got very used to waking up at 8 a.m. and just staying in our comfortable PJs all day. But we knew that an in-person learning was very important for academic learning, and not only that, our social life. So obviously mentioning the pandemic, we weren't able to see each other at all with the restrictions put in place, but we were still able to see each other during the fires, which again, like Caitlin mentioned with the community, that was such an amazing thing to have. And getting to hold so many events, with ASB and Palisades ambassadors, which I'm a part of, has been such an amazing thing to see, just everyone coming together. So when we received the news that we would go back into person on the 22nd, it was very exciting. And I think all of us were just overcome with so many amazing emotions. I also want to just talk about how Sears is currently and how it's going so far after I think it's been 3 weeks or so. So we are just so grateful to be back in person. I know there have been a lot of concerns with, safety, the area, and other things like that, but I'm definitely starting to realize a lot of things that we took for granted. At Pali, having everything at our fingertips was very different than the situation we have now. So for example, in one of my classes, we just got a whiteboard like a few days ago, and that was a big thing for us to have. So we're very thankful for the work our administrators and staff and teachers and everyone have been doing to help accustom us to the new campus, and it has made such a big difference. I also wanted to mention that it's not only just the new campus, again, it's all these amazing community events that we've had. So Caitlin is a part of ASB and I'm a Palisades ambassador. And I know we've been working hand in hand with the administration and staff to, sorry, to create so many amazing events for the community. So we also have the Raise Pali campaign, which is the official fundraiser for the school to rebuild our school. And we'd love for you guys to contribute to that and help with that. So I can hopefully leave a link in the chat later. And these community events are really just the glue holding us all together. So I just went to the peer event a few days ago. I know you guys were mentioning that, and that was so amazing to see a lot of my classmates from school. I think I noticed some of you guys there as well, and that was just really great to have. So I just want to kind of sum this up and wrap it up by saying I've had a very positive experience at Sears, and I can't wait to finish the year here. obviously we don't know what the future will hold, and we don't know if we're staying here or going back to our Pali campus or when. But I know I'm going to stay Pali strong. So I really just wanted to thank you all for taking the time to listen to Caitlin and I today. And we really appreciate all your contributions and all the hard work that the PPCC has been doing after the fires. And I also wanted to add that we are both open to any questions about our experiences. So please feel free to ask both of us. And I'll hopefully leave the link for the Raise Pally campaign, if that's okay with you, Sue.
That would be great. And yeah, send it and we'll send it out in a MailChimp too.
Thank you.
So you girls are great. Thank you so much. You know, when you think about your experiences, first you had to deal with COVID at home, go through that whole thing, and everyone was thinking, oh, all these poor kids, that's a once in a 1,000-year, or I don't know how many hundreds of years thing, you know, isn't that so terrible, these poor kids? And then they all come back. And then this, it's like, it's just a huge double whammy. And you two look like you're doing really, really well with it. And it seems like probably most of your friends are too. And who knew Sears could be Pali South? I mean, who knew? So that was a great development until you get to your real campus. So I want to thank you both so much for taking the time to talk to us. And it was great. Does anyone have any questions for these girls? No? Okay. Thank you, Caitlin, so much. And Ella, thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you for inviting us to speak on this.
Yeah, of course. Okay, next up, we have a very interesting presentation from Evan Hall, who might or might not share a screen, but Evan, you can, just so you know. It's the project to preserve chimneys of historic Palisades homes. And I think Evan will explain to us what the project is and why he's here. And so, Evan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Sue. Hi, everybody. It's good to see some familiar faces. Quentin, Lori, Jessica, Daphne, and some others. So for those that don't know me, my name is Evan Hall. I'm the founding director of House Museum, which is a nonprofit that works to revitalize vacant or blighted historic landmarks. So we work with artists and architects and preservationists to discover new solutions for creating cultural activities or programs around historic sites. So I'm going to just share my screen and get into this presentation. Tell me if you guys can see this.
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah. So, well, I'll start by saying that I am a Los Angeles native. I am not a Palisades resident, although I do remember celebrating my 6th birthday at Will Rogers State Park. It was car themed, but since then I've enjoyed many days of hiking on Inspiration Loop and of course driving through the PCH. So, you know, as soon as the fires broke out, it was devastating for all of us, for all of Los Angeles, and I actually did have to evacuate as the fire approached Mulholland Drive towards Encino. But I'll say that, you know, as soon as the fires really broke out, me and my team began thinking, you know, how do we help? How do we use our expertise as artists and architects to create something that can produce hope and something that can inspire not just the Palisadians, but also others that have gone through similar disasters or crisis. And so we developed this initiative to preserve some of the historic chimneys that have survived from the Palisades fire. So we've identified, excuse me, this is a slide about House Museum. Again, it's a 501c3 nonprofit organization that's run purely by volunteer labor. So, you know, so we were watching the progression of the fire very closely, knowing that there were historic properties in the Palisades designed by master architects, including Paul R. Williams, Lloyd Wright, Eric Lloyd Wright, and Richard Neutra, among others. And so we created this list of about 65 properties and began as early as we could conducting ground surveys to be able to see which ones were still standing or in what states of disrepair they had succumbed to. And so during our surveys, we photographed and documented all of the chimneys that were still standing. And we followed the California Historic Preservation Ordinance for their designation standard in terms of what qualifies something as being of historical significance. And one of those standards, right, is that a place has been associated with events that have made a significant contribution to the broad patterns of California's history and cultural heritage. Another criteria 2, is that some of these properties are associated with the lives of persons that are important in our past, right? Some of those people include Anthony Quinn, the actor, the legendary actor, as well as other living actors like Anthony Hopkins. But we began doing this research immediately and actually built our research off of prior research that had been conducted by the Los Angeles Conservancy, who is a partner with us and supporter of this initiative. And so we have been monitoring the status of these structures. Of course, at this point, we're in May and the debris removal is set to be completed. They say as early as June, but we know it will likely be a little bit later, right? But we're kind of at the point where we are seeing less chimneys than we saw within those first weeks and months after the devastation. So just a couple of stories. So one of the properties that we've identified on Bienvenida was owned by the Sofers. And there was an article that ran in relationship to this project by Laura Hertzfeld. And she wrote, Sofer grew up in the Palisades in a house designed by Frank Lloyd Wright's grandson, Eric. And then he responds, he says, we moved there when I was 6 years old, says Sofer, who is now in his 60s. His mother, the historian Reba Sofer, lived in the house until the Palisades fire destroyed it. Sofer described the room that featured the chimney, now all that is left of the historic house. The fireplace in the study, that's where my mom wrote books, where she worked. It was the heart of her intellectual world. The whole room was walnut, all the desks and shelves and cabinetry built in, and this brick fireplace in the center of one of the walls that lent to its warmth. Right, so we've seen that oftentimes the only thing that's remaining or intact is these masonry structures, right? The bricks that have already been through fire, right, in order to hold their form. And so the Sofers describe their chimney as being an integral part of their living space, right? Something that almost united the living room and the intellectual world of Reba Sofer. And they continue to say that the concept, which I will fully share as we go through the next couple of slides, is one that Wright, Eric Lloyd Wright, would have loved. Anytime anyone can take art and combine it with culture and history to make a memorial that will sit in nature, it's a great idea. So we are working to not just preserve these structures. They've already been cataloged and documented. Some have been 3D scanned, but we are in the process of relocating. The goal is 7, right? And once those 7 are relocated, then we have plans and vision, right, to create a memorial of freestanding chimneys and fireplaces that will act as a place for gathering, a place for reflection, a place for healing, a place for community that is constructed of the remnants and the relics of the former homes and dwelling places of these Palisadian residents. Another one of the homes that we've identified is located on Monument Street. And this property was designed by the famous architect Richard Neutra, who studied under Frank Lloyd Wright, and he designed over 300 properties in his lifetime. And as you can see on the left, that's the chimney as it stands currently, just a month ago. And then you have a photograph of the interior of the home that was taken in 1954 with the chimney lit with fire beneath it. And then on the right, you see one of Richard Neutra's original drawings that was produced around 1950. And Richard Neutra, right, he is a celebrated architect, and there's actually 3 of his properties that burned in the fire, just a few months ago, but he was celebrated by Times Magazine in 1949, and he got the cover. So, what the architecture in the Palisades, right, is not just important to the Palisades, it's important for Los Angeles, and it's actually important for the international architectural world and design community. Just have a sip of water. And so one of the other properties that I'll share about was located on El Medio Avenue, and it was designed by architect Ray Cappy in 1959. Cappy, excuse that typo, founded the architectural program at Cal Poly Pomona and the Southern California Institute of Architecture, also known as SCI-Arc. And he worked with the Erdely family on this property. And as you can see in the photograph on the right, there's a family portrait of the Erdleys in front of their Ray Cappy fireplace, which has these kind of characteristic and diagnostic concrete blocks that he used in multiple homes that he designed. And then I just want to share also a quote from Bridget Nicole Grice, who is the founder of the Pacific Palisades Preservation Coalition. She was supposed to be on here tonight, but she's traveling in France and could not make it. But she stated in this article, when you think about a chimney and you think about the history of it, it goes back to this idea of the hearth. And I think the hearth has always been this place for storytelling, for gathering, and for community, right? And so if we are building, if our goal is to build a place for gathering and for community that is outdoors and involves public art, what better place than to gather people around the fireplace and around the hearth? So after identifying these over 65 structures, we began conducting outreach to specialists that could relocate safely these unreinforced masonry structures, right? Which has actually never been done before. Nobody's ever moved this many freestanding chimneys, but we got the support of the Masonry Contractors Association of California and America, California Masonry Council. We're working with architect Jack Hilbrand, who's designed and worked on many properties in Malibu, and he's based in Santa Monica, and he's well acquainted with fire-resistant building materials and sustainable building materials. And we brought on board a general contractor, Captive Conservation and Preservation. And so we've developed various work plans for each of these chimneys. They all require a different method for relocation. Some have to be disassembled and cut into sections and then craned and then crated and then lifted, right, crated and then placed onto flatbed trucks. I'm not a structural engineer or an architect or a construction manager, but from all of our conversations, I have a better understanding of actually how challenging it is to relocate an unreinforced masonry structure, which is why we've consulted so many specialists on this. Which is why we've consulted so many specialists on this. But we have, at this point, assembled a task force that is able to do this relocation work. not only the disassembly, but also the reassembly. And so our goal, like I said in the beginning, is to produce a permanent place of remembrance, healing, and hope. And this is a very simplified version of what this could look like, right? But the idea is that these relics of architectural history, cultural history, family legacy, that they would be repurposed, that they would take on a new life and be accessible to not only the future residents of the Palisades, but those that are not going to be able to rebuild and those that are leaving. And in a conversation that I had actually with Anne Sweeney, who's on the board of the Getty, I was telling her that, you know, for some of these homeowners that are in our program, they're 85-year-old women, right? That widowed women that don't have the bandwidth to go through the rebuild process. And so in our conversations, it's felt like the preservation of their chimney is like a parting gift that they're giving to the Palisades that tells, you know, the next generation that they were here, that they contributed to the culture of the neighborhood, the town, and so that they're not forgotten, you know. So
That's great, Evan. That's such an interesting project. I mean, I would have never dreamt anything.
yes, this is the last slide.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you, sorry. And then there's just other precedents, right? Chris Burden's Urban Light, Stonehenge, and the 9/11 Memorial. So our goal, right, is to salvage these 7 structures before May 31st. The Army Corps has given us a deadline, an extension or kind of hold on certain addresses that they won't clear before May 31st. So we are working around the clock to do this work. We're actively fundraising and building additional partnerships to be able to execute this work efficiently. But we are seeking an endorsement from the Pacific Palisades Community Council to move forward with this as we petition the Mountains and Recreation Conservation Authority for public land for this memorial, right, which could be which ideally would be somewhere in the Santa Monica mountain range. Thank you all. I hope that this resonated with you, and I hope that you all can vote quickly as we need a place to put the disassembled structures as we prepare to reassemble them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Kimberly Bloom has a question for you.
Yes, thank you so much. And it's really a terrific project, Evan. Thank you very, very much. I'm wondering if at the Methodist Church, I was not a Methodist. I've only been in that church a few times, but does anybody know if that had a fireplace and it's still standing? Because the Methodists were the one that started Pacific Palisades. And I mean, they are the reason that Pacific Palisades existed. And if they had a chimney, that could be super interesting historically. So if anybody knows if the Methodists had a chimney, maybe you might want to check that out.
Yeah, we could ask Chuck Hart. He's dealing with the Methodist Church for sure. Chris?
Yeah, thank you for this great presentation, Evan. Have you been in touch with the Historic Society, which is a member of our board?
Yeah. So we're members of the Pacific Palisades Preservation Coalition. We've been on multiple meetings with them, although I know that their bandwidth is a bit shorter, right, in terms of taking on new projects. But yeah, we have been in meetings with them.
Right, because I would assume they may know of other historic homes or structures, like, for example, the Methodist Church. But it sounds like you've been exploring that, so that's good. Thanks.
Thank you.
And Evan, if you end up finding a good place, you'll let us know, right?
Can I chime in? Evan, I just want to say I'm blown away by your presentation. I love history. I love that you respect, and we have such a deep history in the Palisades with so many, you're right, you know, artists, writers, actors, everything, architects. I love your project. I find it really profound. is the Getty Center, would they be open to doing something there?
We're in conversation with them. They are limited. I mean, you know, the arts and cultural sectors across the nation are being hit very, very hard right now. So they've been informed about the project. They have offered to give us consultants from their conservators. But that's, you know, who knows if that's the extent of what they can offer at this moment, but we're exploring.
So, and what's your biggest, what do you need? Like, do you need the place or do you need the money or both?
Both.
Yeah. In a nutshell.
Picking
Okay,
up.
Sue Pasco.
Methodist Church is entirely raised. There's nothing left there. They are saving the cross. It was on the top of the church, and there's also a cement structure, another cross inside, but the entire church is raised, so you don't need to ask the Methodist.
Okay, thank you. Dave Card.
Just quickly, I may have missed it, but is there a chimney to save at Will Rogers' house?
There are 3 beautiful chimneys that are constructed of rustic creek stones. They're amazing, but the Will Rogers Ranch Foundation is holding onto their chimneys, you know, for good reason. I think that they're planning on rebuilding around, or they have their own plans.
Thank you.
Sharon?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, have you been in contact with Randy Young? He's like our historian of the Palisades.
I have not. No, I don't know Randy.
Yeah, you should really get in contact with him. They're having an event at Rustic Canyon Park on May 18th from 3 to 5, and they're going to do a lot of the history stuff. It's going to be a get together. If you can attend that, I would show up or try to contact Randy Young because he'll really help you with this project. This is right up his alley.
Yeah, Evan, Brandy is part of the Historical Society as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Sharon. Evan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's great. It's great that we finally got your presentation, and we'll be chatting about it. So thank you. Time for general public comment. This is a time when people who are not board members, if they have something that they'd like to say or announce, speak now. Okay, I have a couple things. Oh no, sorry, Ryan Gohari.
Hi guys.
There you
Sorry, I jumped in at the wrong time earlier. It would now be the right time? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, we just reopened the restaurant last week, and I'm so grateful for the warm reception of all the Palisades residents who seem to be coming back, the ones I guess whose home did not burn down and are still intact. Have welcomed us so gracefully, and I'm very thankful for that. I just have one quick question about as far as the food trucks that are all over the Palisades right now. I'm wondering, do they have kind of just free reins to bring as many food trucks as possible? Because you know, obviously these contractors need places to eat, and I understand that. But you know, for us, business is very slow right now compared to normal, obviously. And I would just, I would hope that we would prioritize the businesses that are brick and mortar, going to stay in the Palisades, rather than, you know, food trucks who are just, you know, not Palisades residents or not locals and are going to leave as soon as this is over.
Ryan, I would suggest that you report any food vendors that don't have the proper health department tags on their vans or food trucks. I would report anybody who's blocking the right of way on the sidewalks. I would also report any food van trucks that spend overnight. That's also illegal. Other than that, they have every right to be on our sidewalk.
I see.
Just a suggestion, the more we report abusive behavior or behavior that doesn't fit the health department code, the more our businesses will get to thrive, those who pay taxes and brick and mortar.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we're all in agreement with you. And this is not new since the fire. This was a major topic of discussion last year. And like Jessica said, a lot of them, they just have the right to be there. And we would all fully support what you're talking about. It's hard, but we don't know what else can be done unless Chris has her hand up. Maybe Chris knows, or Daphne.
Well, I spent a lot of time researching this. First of all, Ryan, thank you. I've been a little incapacitated for various reasons, but for some reason we were able to eat at your restaurant for lunch on Wednesday, in between doctor appointments, and it was
That's
great.
amazing. Thank you for
And
supporting
quite
us.
well, there were quite a few people there. We were really happy to see that, National Guardsmen, workers, but also people who
Yeah.
look like just residents. But
So
can I
the
just say, let me say,
thankfully,
can
sorry,
I
go ahead.
just say before I end this, I did a lot of work on this whole thing about the food trucks versus the sidewalk vendors, different rules for each one. There are a lot of rules for this food trucks as to how long they can park, where they can park, and that kind of thing. But I will say this, you mentioned that some of them may be kind of, I don't know if I want to use the word vagrant, that may be the wrong word, but some of them, like Galban, they've been there a long time. And so they're kind of part of the community as well, but some of that has to be carefully thought out. But I appreciate what you're saying. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Daphne?
I was just curious how the outside vendors are actually getting into park if they're not Palisades residents or contractors, because technically they're not supposed to be there, but that's just a question to ask perhaps Officer Espin when he has his report.
That is a good question.
Yeah, I suppose they could be going and getting contractor passes. I mean, a contractor can mean so many different things,
Right.
So
So, just to recap real quick, if there's parking overnight, if they don't have health department permits, or if they are on, I guess a improper, like parked in an improper area, those are all grounds for removal.
yeah,
It's
who,
more complicated.
Cannot
It's
block
not-
ADA access, Ryan. If you see like there's not enough space for ADA clearance, that could be a reason as well. But I just posted my city cell phone number. My name is Arus. I'm from Tracy Park's office. Please get in touch with me too, please. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much.
thanks, Arus. Thanks very much.
Health hazards as well. There's
Yeah.
food health hazards.
Yeah.
Those are important.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're gonna move on. I'm gonna make a few presiding officer comments, and then we'll get to our other organizations and government. One, I just wanted to tell you all, I was invited to lunch by Megan Watanabe, who is the head of Riviera Country Club, her family, and they're the ones that made such a generous donation to us. So all I'm gonna say about that lunch is it was lovely. Unfortunately, it was the day before the plane landed there, so it would have been kind of fun to be there with the plane landing, but we had a very nice lunch, and I assured her that we were going to be very, very careful and good stewards of her donated funds. So I just wanted to tell you that. I think we all want to say happy birthday to Kimberly. Who knew? So happy birthday, Kimberly. We hope you're going to have a big party tonight after this. Kelly Strong had a great party at the pier. I know it's been mentioned a couple times. It was really fun. A lot of government reps were there. Arus was there partying hard, along with all of us. But it was a great party. It was great to see so many neighbors and friends. So that was good. And then I'm going to go to 8.1.2, which is updated on Zone 0. We had a special Zone 0 meeting on the 5th. I think probably a lot of you were there. And in response to that meeting, PPCC has sent a letter to the State Forestry Board. You can access that. And I want to tell you, in addition, that David Barrett, who was our presenter that night, has let me know that Fire Safe LA is having a Zoom meeting on May 15th. It was mentioned that night, and the meeting will be from 7 to 8:30 on Zoom. And Chris is going to be sending out a flyer on a MailChimp so you guys can all log into that. On the agenda, you'll see 2 letters that have been sent in since our last regular meeting. One was regarding fee waivers, and the other was regarding LAPD checkpoints. That being said, are there officers or our chair emeritus? I don't believe she is here. Are there any officers on the PPCC that have an announcement?
Sue, can I say something real quick?
Yes, who's that?
Lori.
Oh, Lori. Okay.
2 things just residents have brought to me that still have homes standing.
Can I just interrupt, Lori? I'm sorry. This is for officers? These are
Just
officers?
officers, not reps yet.
Oh, sorry.
Not reps yet. Your
Sorry.
time's coming. If there are no officers, then any at-large or area reps and Lori, unless Chris has something she'd like to say first.
Hey, it's Beth.
Oh, only that, you know, as you may have seen, some of our, Sharon, Sue and I wrote a letter to LAPD basically about this issue of individuals coming into the Palisades on foot without being checked at the checkpoints. We haven't, as far as I know, we haven't gotten a response, but maybe Brian can update us on that later. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, Lori, you're up.
Sorry, Beth wants to talk.
Oh, sorry, Beth.
Yeah, I just want to remind people, you know, especially seeing like Go Pally, the Raise Pally, you know, organizations, just a reminder, tag us on social, Instagram, so we can reshare, and anyone else that wants to send something of interest, just send it, and I do my best to repost, you know, things that make sense for us. So we want to support you all. So just reminder. Thank you.
Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah.
Okay, Lori.
Okay, thanks, Sue. 2 things. People with homes still standing that are moving back, they're concerned about when the Palisades reopens to the public, what that's going to look like, and they're very concerned for their safety. And people are wondering if it needs to be open to the, you know, like what will happen when it opens to the public. And then the other issue is they're also concerned that the reservoir has been, the refilling of the reservoir has been suspended at the moment because there was another problem. So I had a resident ask me today, well, what if there is a fire, you know, what will happen? So we're just getting more information about when the reservoir will start getting refilled again.
Yeah, we'd certainly all like that information.
Yeah.
It'd be nice.
Thank you, Sue.
Sharon.
Yeah, I just want to give an update, and I see Veronica De La Cruz is on the call, and she was actually instrumental in helping us with the it's called the very high fire severity signage, restricted entry in all of our bluffs. So I want to give an update that on Thursday, May 1st, Wrexham Parks, CD11 Arus, Officer Margin and Officer Haro, myself, and actually Sue Pascoe went up into the Via Bluffs, walked the trails, marked all the areas where we've lost all the signage. And so now everything is marked. I think we put up about 5 of the signs, and I'm telling you, the brush is just insane up there. We couldn't even find the trails anymore. It's so overgrown. So it's coming back fiercely. So it's a little bit worrisome because as people can get into these access points by foot, unfortunately. LAPD and the what is it? The armed guards guys, the National
Guard.
Yeah, they're not checking anybody on foot. They're only checking vehicles. So that was the basis of the letter, because we need that to happen, because now we're seeing more homeless individuals coming in and they want a place to camp. So we're trying to get those signs up ASAP. Arus is going to follow up with Wrexham Parks to see when the rest are going to be put up, because it's going to take some climbing into certain areas, and they're only able to put them in easy locations because a lot of the areas aren't accessible now because the trails are gone because it's so overgrown. So I just wanted to let everybody know that's in process, and thanks for everybody for helping on that. That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for staying on top of it. Sharon is our enforcer, so we have a lot to thank her for. Okay, any other area reps
Yes.
first? Okay, Julia.
Yeah, I was going to mention this 2 weeks ago. We didn't have a chance, but there was a lot of chat on the WhatsApp for Marquez Knolls about the lower Marquez Knolls has horrible cell phone coverage right now. And I don't know if it's been fixed in the last 2 weeks, but is there someone I can contact about that? They're saying that contractors actually have to drive down to PCH or elsewhere to get coverage to coordinate with the homeowners in debris clearance and what they need to do there.
Bruce, do you have an answer for that?
Which cell towers are missing? Is it AT&T?
I think it's
You know?
lower Marquez near where Marquez Elementary is.
If those were the AT&T ones, they have been returned 2 weeks ago. When I contacted them, they said when a disaster happens in another state, they have to ship the equipment back to another state. Now they're back to Palisades, and I asked them not to ship it back, and I threatened them because they said we might ship it back again, and I told them, if you do so, I will ask the entire Palisades to cancel your cell phone service. Please leave those towers over there. If there are not the AT&T towers and you know which ones have been removed, let me know.
Thank you, Arus. I appreciate your help.
Arus, whoa. Good for you. Okay. Any organizational reps have a report to give? Dave Card.
Yes, for the Forestry Committee, Palisades Forestry Committee, we have a website. I just wanted to make sure everybody heard that. We have our website up. It's www.palisadesforestry.org. Palisadesforestry.org. That's our website. We got it up with what we think is the most important information that we can give you, which is links to resources. Most of them are fire related. That's the first half of our resources tab. The second half of that tab is just general tree information and city agencies that you might want to contact and so on. Buried in those resource links are recommendations from those sources for fire resistant trees and plants. And I also want to let you know that we're working on a list of fire resistant trees. It'll be an incomplete list that I'm preparing for Saturday. We will be hopefully sitting right next to Resilient Palisades at the, let's see, let me get this right, Wildfire Recovery and Rebuilding Community Workshop that is co-sponsored by Resilient Palisades and by the Green Building Council in Los Angeles. And that's going to be in Santa Monica at the Snapchat building, which is in the office park. You can look up, I'm sure that Resilient Palisades has information on that event. And it's been also in PPCC's announcements. So come on down Saturday, 10 to 2, and pick up your fire resistant trees list. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Jessica?
Hi, sorry, I feel like I spoke a lot tonight. I want to bring up again the issue of PCH opening up and our ingress and egress points of the Palisades opening up to the general public. Right now, we don't know what's going to happen in terms of law enforcement, what kind of law enforcement, whether the city is going to be suggesting we use private security or not. I will tell you that Altadena has seen an uptick in 450% crime since last year. And we're now going to be attracting all kinds of new crime. For example, think of all of our retaining walls on our empty lots. They're very attractive to graffiti artists. And Sharon mentioned people coming in on foot. I've witnessed quite a few of them wandering in our dark neighborhoods that have zero lighting, not a single light on a single street. And yes, we have private security driving around. Not all of them are willing to enforce the law. Not all of them are armed. And I'm terribly concerned about it. And for all of you who might be concerned about it, or if you'd like to speak with your residents about it, this is something that we all need to get on board together and demand that our basic needs, safety, be prioritized for the entire community, even if a lot of us are not currently living in the community. It's important for our culture that we rescue and save and salvage everything we absolutely can, and that we keep our community as tidy and organized and crime-free as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Leanne?
I just want to say that I sat in on the CPAB meeting, and all the SLOs from the whole West Side spoke up, and crime is up for houses dramatically in Brentwood and Bel Air. In the Palisades right now, it's down. So all the people would have come to the Palisades are hitting those areas, but they are having some serious crime sprees. And I want to echo everything Jessica Rogers just said, that we are in for a tough situation if we don't, as soon as we let the general public in.
Well, thank you. Joanna?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, has it been determined that everything will open up once PCH opens up? I know that Mayor Bass at her last webinar requested that people go onto her website and submit on her constituent services section if they want it opened up in the Palisades, or if we wanted checkpoints to stay. So I just didn't, I don't know. It sounds like people are saying it's going to open up and that's not even an issue now. Is that true?
I don't know. Arus, do you know?
Not sure. I wasn't aware of any of the conversations Mayor's office was holding, but as for our team, we are sort of coordinating with our executive body to see if we can come up with a better management plan and do some kind of enforcement once the National Guard leaves. Obviously, we don't want to open up all of our checkpoints immediately to the general public. That's what I'm hearing, at least from many, many Palisadians. But everyone's points have to be considered. So I'm not sure. I don't know the answer right now. Maybe next meeting I will tell you guys more.
I think we'll probably hear more in the next couple of weeks. We'll get more information about that. Okay, so organizational reps have finished.
Can
We're
I
gonna
just
put-
add one piece? If they leave, if the National Guard leaves by June 1, we don't have 2 weeks to discuss it. It's May 8th. I just want to let everybody know that PPRA will be sending out emails and will be on the socials and on Nextdoor. And I just really hope that everybody who's concerned about safety jumps in and understands that we don't have time to afford to think about maybe yada yada. We need
Yeah,
a
no,
for
I understand. I
sure.
just meant that I think we're going to be having meetings over the next week that you're aware of. You're coming. And I think we'll be getting more information than we have tonight during the next 2 weeks. That's all I meant. So and maybe now that we're moving on
Wait,
to,
so Courtney had her hand up.
oh, okay, I didn't see that. Sorry, Courtney.
No problem. My hand's gone up and down because I didn't know if I should say it now or wait until Brian was speaking, but it sort of piggybacks on what Jessica was saying. I've heard from a number of people that the LAPD presence is all over the Palisades on PCH, and they're pulling people over and they're ticketing people. And so when I hear there's a big LAPD presence in the Palisades, I would like to hope that it's in the actual town of the Palisades, protecting the homes, protecting from, everything that's been mentioned, graffiti, burglaries, whatnot. To hear that they're focused on pulling people over is really frustrating. I have friends who've lost everything. They go back and they're getting a ticket for going 30 miles an hour. So there's just a level of frustration with what is LAPD doing with the limited resources that they have. Is it really best served pulling people over versus being a help to protect what we have left in the Palisades, especially if and when National Guard does leave?
Courtney, that's Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's not LAPD.
Yeah, it's not LAPD.
Yeah, it's highway patrol. I see it every day.
Yeah.
Okay, well then my apologies. That's what I was told. I haven't been up there.
Well, that sort of leads into you, Officer Espin.
All right, how you guys doing? Yes, actually, I was actually going to touch on that because I have received several emails, and at the Pally Strong event, I spoke to quite a few people on the pier. Yes, it is, Courtney, it is CHP. Basically, just to give you a nutshell, National Guard and several construction utility crews have made complaints to the Highway Patrol and to us, to LAPD, saying that they've had a lot of vehicles driving very unsafe in the neighborhoods, as well as PCH with a lot of the utility crews. Because they've had so many complaints, that's when CHP has decided to step up their enforcement in regards to people driving in the neighborhood. So CHP, I was going to warn everybody, CHP is doing a lot of heavy traffic enforcement right now in the Palisades because of all the complaints that they have received from some residents, but a lot of them were construction workers, utility crews, and the National Guard at the checkpoints. So because of that, CHP has stepped up their enforcement presence, we'll say. In regards to the safety of the neighborhood, as of right now, like I said before, CHP is being tasked with doing the crime suppression in the neighborhood. So you're only going to see a couple, myself and a couple other LAPD cars in the neighborhood. LAPD has been tasked with assisting at the checkpoints only right now. So right now we're using overtime funds to staff these positions, because obviously we don't have enough here at West LA, especially to cover the checkpoints with all the officers, and then also to drive around. Everything's being on overtime. So with the city budget, obviously you guys saw in the news, the mayor, there's a lot of city civilians that are being laid off. We're going to see what's going to happen with our footprint, LAPD, once the Palisades does open. We are trying to formulate and put a plan in place to try to get as many officers as we can to just saturate the area. So as of right now, like I said, it's just CHP that's up in the area doing the crime suppression, and LAPD is handling the checkpoints down on PCH, and a couple that are roaming for assisting with reports and stuff. As you saw on my crime update that I call it now Palisades update, the majority of the crime, obviously, were lower in the Palisades, but as Leanne said, the majority of the burglary crews that we were seeing all over the city and on the west side, they are really targeting the Cheviot Hills area, Beverly Hills, Brentwood, Bel Air, everything next to us. So as we start getting into this opening phase of the Palisades, we're going to have to take that into consideration of how we're going to start doing our footprint, our presence in the neighborhood. Let's see. I think that's all I have that I wanted to touch on.
Okay.
Anything else? Any questions?
Sharon has something.
Yeah.
There's a couple things, Brian. It's come to my attention that there's two things. That the crime report that you're sending out isn't really accurate, because a lot of the information on crimes is going to the command station and not making it to your desk. So I don't know if you can kind of clarify that. The second thing is that we just found this out when we met with Arus, when we did the signage implication there, that the CD11 has the flock camera information that comes to, they have the, whatever it is, the Zoom or whatever it is. I don't know how it comes. But anyway, LAPD is not getting that. And that's really important because there's a lot of cameras in the Palisades, and that was in that letter that was sent out through PPCC. So they're not getting that in real time, which is something that they should be getting. So Arus actually, informed us of all that. So can you comment on those two items?
So first, I don't understand the flock question though, because I know we were just officers are just getting hits on flock hits in the Beverly Hills area. So I know maybe it's the cell towers that might be down or not. I mean, because the officers are getting once we log in and we put in information, we're able to get that information. So once we we'll say it's like on our cell phones or on the computer, when I log in and I put my little geofence around the Palisades of whatever flock cameras we have or vigilant cameras we have that are active in the Palisades, my geofence that I set up, I'll get a notification. So I don't know where information we're missing, because I think I don't know about necessarily in the Palisades, maybe because of, like I said, cell information may not be getting through. I don't know how because it's usually a cloud-based.
Yeah, well, maybe you can have that conversation with Arus, because she has the.
Okay, yeah, I'll touch base with her for sure.
Because that's what we found out that day, and so it was kind of like, wow, we need this, and they're not getting it.
So I mean, I know Jessica and Courtney, the PPRA, they were really heavy working on trying to get those flat cameras and up in the Palisades, which we still need, obviously. Especially now when we start getting into the opening phases of the Palisades, we're gonna heavily rely on that to see who's kind of going in and out of the neighborhood.
So just because you mentioned flock cameras, Flock has donated over 30 cameras to the Pacific Palisades since February, and PPRA is going to assure that we maintain those cameras, and we have a promise from Flock that they will carry through until we raise those funds. Notice everybody, we need an additional $120,000 to get every ingress and egress point covered, but we're actively working on that, and we're grateful the cameras are there. And I also had heard that LAPD has full access to everything. So I don't know what's missing, but I'm
I'll check on that. I'll touch base with Ruth. Thanks, Jessica. And then back to the first question. Anytime a report is made and it goes into our CAD summary and it's assigned a case number, it comes across my desk. Now that we changed different software programs, I don't get the physical report. I actually have to look up each individual report. That's why you don't see when I send out the crime maps, it's just the map. I don't send out the description because I have to go into the software, plug in a case number, and look up each individual report. It takes way too long. But as long as somebody made a police report, I can track it, and it will be on the map. If they just called the command post or they just call my desk and there's no like police report, it's just FYI kind of thing, it will not be documented on the map or in our CAD summary. So anytime somebody makes a police report, it's documented.
Yeah, because there was a burglary, I think, up on Mesa, but it wasn't on the report. And then they said something about it just goes to the command station, and sometimes it doesn't end up on your desk anymore. So we're missing some of these crimes.
Yeah, no, if it goes to the
happening, and there is. So but
yeah, no. So so the way it works right now, the command post at Will Rogers Beach, they have officers assigned to the checkpoints, and like I said, they have those like 2 or 3 officers roaming around. If a property owner comes home or gets on their property and finds a safe and there's guns, they call the police because we have to recover it. They won't. Army Corps and EPA will not go and handle those. We will come up and actually take possession of the firearms or whatever it is and book it. So the command post is handling that. When it's like CHP is driving around and somebody flags them down and says, "Oh, my house got burglarized," they actually call us to come out and we actually have to take the report. So I wouldn't say that things are getting missed. It's only if they're making a police report is when it's documented.
Okay, thank you.
Sue, can I ask? I have a question.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, earlier I mentioned the letter that Sharon and Sue and I wrote to LAPD, more top brass. So what is the result of that? Are there any directives for LAPD to start checking pedestrians? And just so everyone knows, there's an increase in homeless and other individuals, transients, who are walking or bicycling in, and as far as we can tell, haven't been checked. They're just, going in with suitcases and what have you. So can you tell us the status of that?
Correct. Yeah. So the decision was made months ago to open up the bike path. After with obviously the letter you guys sent, it went to our command and they kind of went over it. The Palisades, with the personnel that we have and the National Guard has significantly reduced their footprint as well and their personnel. So with all that, we don't have the resources to continue to lock down the bike path and check each person as they're coming in. We're very fortunate still in the Palisades to have our beach detail. We have 4 officers assigned. They're still working the 7-day coverage. They work with Sharon's team, the Task Force on Homelessness. They're still doing their regular checks. Once we found out the bike path is open, now we went back to our regular checking the hillsides like we were before, the trails, the areas where we've seen encampments before. We believe that a lot of them will be hiding out, or we know that they try to go to. But as of right now, they are still going to keep the bike path open. It's something that I think we're supposed to have a meeting next week regarding potential plans format of what our footprint's going to look like for LAPD when we do the opening phase of the Palisades. But as of right now, it's going to remain open, and we're just going to have to be vigilant and monitor it as best we can. Highway Patrol is aware of that. That's why you'll see a lot more Highway Patrol on PCH, because they do know that the bike path is open, and a lot of people are getting up onto PCH and continuing into Malibu even. So it's just something that we have to watch. We just don't have the personnel. Neither does the National Guard to post and man a checkpoint for the bike path for the pedestrians. So
no, it wasn't about a checkpoint on the bike path. What it was asking, the letter, was for at the existing checkpoints that LAPD, anybody that walks through those checkpoints, and it's all mentioned in the letter, Chautauqua, Sunset, Brooklyn, Amalfi, that they look for proof of residency before they walk through. And that's how they're getting in. It's not.
Yeah, we just don't have the personnel to put officers on a rotating schedule on the bike path to do that. So
we don't need the bike
And
path.
what's the response to our letter
well,
then?
that's how they're getting in. They're getting in on the bike path though. So
but they have to walk past Sunset, where you have 2 LAPD officers. You have the National Guard there. National Guard only checks vehicles, so does LAPD. What the request was that those LAPD officers that are also there are just checking people on foot or bike going in past those checkpoints. Very simple, because you already have the resources there. So that's what it was about, not closing the bike path or worried about along PCH.
Yeah,
So,
I can bring it up with the command again, and we'll revisit that for sure.
Yeah, if you could explain to them, that's really the emphasis, what Sharon just said. Okay, thank you.
Very good.
Beth, question.
I was just going to say, you mentioned a few cities between Cheviot Hills, Brentwood, Bel Air having a spike. I didn't hear Beverly Hills, so I'm wondering, is there something that they're doing that we should maybe learn from?
Well, Beverly Hills, they're obviously it's a different city. The way they do policing is a little different. They're actually able to use drone technology, so they're able to get on top of things a little bit faster than we are, obviously. But Beverly Hills has seen an increase. I don't know how much, if it's a significant like we have, or it's just a small amount. That I don't know. But I do know Beverly Hills, this Chilean crew, the South End crews that's been hitting all over the city. They've also hit Beverly Hills as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right, I think we better move on because we're getting late. And we
Yes.
still have a few
Happy Mother's Day to you guys. Coming
Thank
up.
you so much,
All
Brian.
you dog and cat moms as well. Happy
Thank you,
Mother's
thank
Day
you.
to everybody. Enjoy.
Arus, you have a quick report, Arus?
I can be quick. So I want to thank all of the community members who came out with the City 11 team to be part of our 100-day videos and filming progress in Palisades. Thank you guys so much for your time. I do want to give report regarding the green drainage socks that all of you have seen around our catch basins and storm drain system. Also sandbags, not only the drainage socks, but sandbags. Those are installed to protect our storm drain systems, and some have to stay in the area. Our team is currently meeting with city departments, asking them to clean or replace them. Some of them have to stay, but some will be cleaned. Thank you all for sending us pictures and locations, and thank you for your patience. Please note that this work is not reimbursable by FEMA, and the City 11 team is currently advocating for maintenance or removal of approximately 800 installations. Our beautification team is also helping clean some areas in the Palisades, including the trash overflow in the village area, and most recently the corners of Bienvenida Avenue and Via Floresta. I know many of you brought up damaged road concerns, asphalt repairs. All of them are submitted to MyLA 311. We're trying to coordinate with our departments and see how this will be addressed. The current message, if you submit a 311 request from BSS, you will receive a generic text saying, unfortunately, at this current time, we are not inspecting fire impacted areas. Once restrictions are lifted, please resubmit another service request. We apologize for the inconvenience. So the locations that I was aware and we have submitted, we have the case numbers, and we'll try to follow up with BSS to see if they have the manpower and the budget to fix those areas. We will also join the Palisades Beautiful and Resilient Palisades this weekend on May 10th for their events. Today, the councilwoman visited the newly opened Prima Cantina. We will post our video and pictures soon. Will of the newly opened businesses, and we support all of them. We will visit all of them. We're happy you guys are opening up your doors, and congrats, Ryan, on opening Spruso. Our entire team currently is involved in budget discussions, and our response time might be a bit challenged. Apologies for this, and thank you for your patience. The budget discussions will continue next week as well. Thank you so much. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Aruz. I have not seen Marion Ensley from the mayor's office. I don't think Marion's here, but I see Zach is here and he's got his hand up from Lindsay Horvath's office.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I originally wasn't going to be able to make it today. I am currently in the car, so I thought I'd log in and just be able to say hi to everyone. There's one big update. I sent something in writing to Sue earlier today, but the biggest update is in regards to the domoic acid issue that has been happening due to the large toxic algal bloom. And so the Marine Mammal Center, the only NOAA authorized responder in the region, is facing significant funding and resource gap in responding to this crisis. So Supervisor instituted an emergency motion that will immediately issue a $100,000 purchase order to the MCC to support emergency rescue and medical care, as well as a report back in 5 days with funding options up to $600,000 to cover the emergency marine mammal rescue and medical care, as well as create an emergency response plan for future mass stranding events and toxic algal blooms in partnership with the MCC and the Office of Emergency Management. Well, we figure that this current algal bloom is due to what happened in January. There have been large deadly algal blooms for the last 5 years. So the issue is an overabundance of nutrients in the water that is a much larger issue that needs to be addressed, which is why we're looking towards that future planning in terms of response for that, as well as developing a long-term funding strategy, including engagement with philanthropic partners, donation programs at beach concessionaries, Park and Passion Initiative, so that we can have ongoing marine mammal welfare. If you see an animal in distress, remember to call their hotline, 1-800-39-WHALE, and I will leave it there.
Sharon, did you have a quick comment? Sharon,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Thanks, Zach, for that, because I have been finding, except for this week, but the past 3 weeks, at least 5 dead dolphins at Will Rogers Beach, along with sea lions and pelicans. It's been awful. So thanks for that. I'm going to bug you about something. In our last meeting, when we talked about the bike bridge, you said end of April, they would start correcting that and fixing it. Nothing has been done. Is there any updates on the famous bicycle bridge that fell?
Well, I have egg on my face. I don't have an update, but I will send something to Sue tomorrow that can be shared with the community.
That would be terrific, because we're waiting for that bike path.
Oh, and the other thing is there plans to use Gladstone's parking lot, which is county owned, for some kind of Palisades construction site or something because of that unhoused individual that they, want moved, that's been there for 8 years. He's like the little protector of the area. Randy, is there something that lot's going to be used for, to your knowledge, since it's county?
I received a report from Beaches and Harbor that there is something, but I haven't actually heard what it is yet. As soon as I find out, I'll be sure to share it with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zach. Have a good night. What about Sean Regan? Is he here? From Congressman Sherman's office? Okay, Samantha Gallegos from Senator Ben Allen's office. And last but not least, Anthony Avia from Assembly Member Jackie Irwin's office.
He left early. He did
Okay.
put something in the chat, which I haven't read, about some upcoming events, I believe, that the Assemblywoman member is holding.
Okay.
So you might want to check the chat,
We'll
everyone.
get a copy of the chat later then. Okay, and now the grand conclusion, we have reports from PPCC committees, and we have a report tonight from Lori Kudzel, who is the chair of the nominating committee, and her committee members are Kimberly Bloom, Steve Crone, Joanna Rodriguez, and Chris Spitz. So, Lori, I'm going to let you take it from here. What happened to Lori? Lori, are you still here?
Oops, I'm here. Sorry, I was muted. Okay, sorry. Okay. Our committee is very pleased to announce that all the current officers have agreed to continue in their positions in the next term. So thank you, everybody. So our committee's candidates are as follows: Sue Cole for president, Quentin Fleming for vice president, Jenny Lee for treasurer, and Beth Holden Garland for secretary. Yeah, we very much appreciate you guys continuing on, especially we're thankful to have the continuity, especially now during the fires. You have all put in so much time and effort, and we're very grateful for everything that you have done and how well that you have led the PPCC.
Well, thank you so much, Lori, and thank you to all the members of the committee. We do have an opportunity for anyone on the board tonight to make another nomination. So if anyone has one, we're happy to hear it. Otherwise, by 7:45 at our next meeting, 15 minutes before that meeting ends.
Actually, Sue, it might be at 7:15. That meeting might be scheduled to end at 7:30.
Oh,
Don't give an exact number yet, just yet.
all right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, guys. And I'm going to say that again, happy birthday to Kim. I hope you're going to go party now. And I hope all of you go party now. Hey, oh, Daphne, you have your hand raised. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I actually did. I just wanted to let people know about July 4th briefly.
Okay.
As many of you know, there will be a July 4th race, and the information for that was sent out by the race committee, but it's also on the Palisades4th.com website. We are not going to be having a parade, but the Santa Monica July 4th parade has invited participants from the Palisades to join them and participate in the parade in Santa Monica under their parade permit. Their parade is at 9:30 in the morning. I've been in touch with Jeff Jarrow, who is the organizer, and Lou Kamer will be coordinating some of the floats who might participate. We are reaching out to, and I have reached out and he has, to certain regular participants. They are invited to participate in that parade and the fees will be waived. We just need to coordinate that. And we will have the information for that on our website, July 4th, Palisades4th.com, including the link to Santa Monica. Instead, we are going to be having a community gathering in the evening. Some of you have seen the information that we sent out. We just wanted to let people know it's going to be much like some of the other gatherings for Palisadians. It's really a get together so people can see their friends, family, We're gonna figure out how to do the ticketing in advance, so working on having parking, and which we've been discussing with Arus as well. There'll be more details coming. It will be at Paul Revere Middle School, and it will be starting at 5 in the evening. And more details to follow. We're still working on it. And we will have a drone show, no fireworks, same vendor, but they will be doing that. So we'll have food trucks, we'll have get-togethers, the Pally High Band will be there. We're hoping others will participate. I don't want to put too much out there now, but I just wanted people to know that, and the information will be released. Sue Pascal will also be providing information as she gets it from us. So thank you. I just wanted people to know it's not that far away. It's less than 2 months now.
Daphne, thank you so much. I think it sounds fabulous. It's going to be a great party.
So it'll be for friends, family, Palisadians, friends and family. It's not really going to be going out. We're not going to be selling tickets. It's going to be invitation and
sign up.
So,
right? Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. And it is 8:02, and I'm going to say we are adjourned. So thank you all so much.
Thanks, Sue.
Yeah. Have a good week. Bye.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you to you all.